hibernation. She says, in the Anishinaabe culture, I think that's how you say it, we see the winter months, so they look to nature to inform the way they move through life. We see the winter months as a time to rest, to gather in, to tell stories. We follow the animals' cues to harvest in the autumn and hibernate as the snow blankets the cold earth beneath us. And hopefully the snow will hold off so we can get home safely. It is also a good time to notice and to listen to that source of life. Notice the life that is already in you, the power. To breathe in the truth of our divine image. To breathe out our confession when we rush exceptionally quickly to judgment and forget to see that divine image in each other. Breathe in what is real about your identity. Breathe out the facade, the fake. And speaking of fake, we hear a lot about so-called fake news. And we hear it, the accusation, along the whole spectrum. So I am not speaking anything politically here, okay? Just to be clear. We throw that at each other. Fake news. It matters not what perspective you come from. The accusations of misinformation, inaccuracies, and all manner of fakery help those who disagree. What is real? What is fake? What evidence can one present to another whose only retort is, well, that's fake news? How can you have a conversation with that when that's our go-to? But we also all know, either by our own experience or some others who are close to us, that memory is slippery. Whatever facts we hold in our noggins are factual inasmuch as we currently remember them. I've even told someone a narrative whose source I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember where I heard it from, only to find out that it was the person I'm telling the story to is the one who told me it. It happens. Not uncommon, two people witnessing an identical situation will remember vastly different, even contrary elements. It's not that either or both of them are lying. Rather, they each ascribe different meaning to the things they saw and focus on varying aspects, making the scenario appear nearly as two separate events sometimes. So facts aren't reliable. Knowledge, though, is not the point. Paul said to the Corinthian church, I did not come to you with lofty words or wisdom, but with a demonstration of the Spirit and of power. God reveals through the Spirit. The Spirit searches even the depths of God. Knowledge. So that, and this is why, so that we may understand the gifts. These gifts that are bestowed on us by God. That's why. We interpret spiritual things, not worldly facts, fake or otherwise. Those who are spiritual discern all things. We have the mind of Christ, who has the mind of God, so us. And not subject to worldly scrutiny. That is, society's facts and accumulated knowledge cannot try the spiritual knowledge as at a court's trial. It is known by the power, the evidence of the spiritual gifts bestowed on us. And that God decreed these things before the ages, for our glory, before the foundations of the world. This spiritual knowledge, the power of God's Spirit, was already given. So where is the evidence of our belief? So I have this video, and it shows a beautiful example of some evidence of this happening. And for some reason, when I try to clip it down, it ends up doing this laggy thing. So you'll maybe see people's mouths moving and you won't hear the words or whatever. But I want you to watch it and listen for the words and just see the people. And yes. So let's
It was billed as the surprise of a lifetime.
Does anybody know what this is about?
And sure enough,
They didn't tell you anything?
when these high school seniors gathered for the big reveal, up walked a guy they'd never seen to tell them something they'd never forget.
Right now, this next minute, is the most important moment of my life.
Pete Cadens is a wealthy businessman. He grew up here in Toledo, Ohio, and he says the time has come to give back.
I think that Toledo could be one of the most equitable middle market communities in this country. And so if you want to make a big difference, you go to the epicenter of inequity.
Scott High School has some of the most disadvantaged students in the state, but the school is still rich with dreams. Kids like senior Chris Rowland, who would love to go to college, but can't afford it, especially now. Last fall, Chris's mom, Abina, lost her job, and his dad died in a house fire.
My dad was the closest person I had in my life. In his later days, he was really pushing me to go to college. He kept saying, "You're really smart, you should think about going."
He was such an awesome father. He's still gonna make him proud. I know he is.
Just gotta figure out a path. Yeah.
Fortunately, unbeknownst to Chris, that path to a brighter future was about to find him.
And if you're sitting here in this room today, as a soon-to-be graduating senior, tuition, room and board, books and fees will be paid for you, and you will go to college for free.
And there was more. Because poverty is an intergenerational problem, and because he is determined to snuff it out in this community, Pete offered each kid a study partner.
So too can one of your parents go to college or trade school for free.
Abina says she always wanted to be a school counselor. Altogether, this could cost Pete up to $3 million. And now he wants to get others to pitch in to expand the program to every public school in Toledo.
And this is how we change the world.
Which is why, if you could look up through that gym ceiling, as Chris did, I'm sure you'd see a dad beaming with gratitude. Ouch.
I ask you only one favor in return.
But here's what really stuck with me.
Please don't ever use the word gift to describe what I did here today.
Why not? I wondered. Certainly, as our story went viral this week, that's the word many people use to describe his offer. What other word could you use?
Only use the word responsibility.
Over the years, I've done a lot of stories about wealthy people doing good deeds, but I've never heard of one with this catch. Don't say Pete gave you a gift, say he fulfilled his responsibility. Because gift implies he had a choice, whereas responsibility implies obligation.
Pete Cadens also grew up in Toledo, but he attended a much wealthier school where college was expected. He worked hard and started 3 different companies. For that reason, Pete could easily claim to be a self-made man, but that's not how he framed it in his speech.
What became of my life was as much a factor of the inequities that exist in our society today as it was my skills, my talents, and my work ethic.
In other words, Pete says he didn't win at life fair and square. He says many successful people don't.
The competitive set that people I compete with were a lot smaller than it otherwise could be if everyone got the same level of education. And Martin Luther King always said, history has a long and sordid path of people and groups with privilege, protecting their privilege. Well, I'm done protecting my privilege.
Pete Cadens changed many lives that day. Now he's hoping to change mindsets, too.
I hope others share in my responsibility in Toledo and around the world. Thank you.
Steve Hartman, on the road, in Toledo.
When someone sees his offering as a responsibility, sharing because it is her duty, something that ought to be done, it makes it much more difficult to ignore. When we take a moment to breathe in the truth of our privilege, and breathe out the impulse to protect it, we are compelled to do something about it. When I breathe in the realization that what became of my life is as much a factor of the inequalities that exist in our society today as anything else, and breathe out my part in perpetuating a perception that it's somehow their fault for not trying hard enough or some similar sentiment, then maybe my gifts, given by the very Spirit of God, might contribute to the project of making things right, the transformation of the world. Jesus said in Matthew, if you have lost your saltiness, your flavor, what good are you? Maintain your unique flavor. Notice and appreciate the unique flavors of one another. Expand your perspective of what delicious is. Enjoy the infinite gifts and evidence of God's goodness in this world. Be a light. Evidence of your devotion to God. You are a light. Let it shine. Be just evidence. Amen. And so we